Good morning. Dear students and staff, I'll keep it brief. Today we will have a very exciting clinical talks event with two distinguished guests, our special guest and Mr. Ruben Garcia from Adelaide United. We are very lucky to have these important guests. After all the difficulties with COVID-19, we couldn't organize anything last year. We trust that our guests will also enjoy our company as much as they have enjoyed other significant moments in their sporting life. Mr. Ruben Garcia, the Community Programs Coordinator, has kindly organized today's meeting and visit to our school. Please welcome them to our school. I will now give a brief introduction to our guest speaker, Mr. Bruce DJITE. Bruce is a former soccer who has played for clubs in several countries, including Turkey, China, South Korea, Indonesia. When Bruce was playing football in Turkey for the Gençler Birliği club in Ankara, I was undertaking my honors thesis and later my PhD with his father at Western Sydney University in 2010. This is another example of interconnectedness and networking in our world. As they say, we all live in a small world. So, what a small world. With full some wonderful people. His father was the person who guided me in the early stages of my career. I will never forget his contribution. Bruce has won many prestigious domestic trophies in Australia with Adelaide United. This included the Premiership and Championship double in 2016. Bruce also tops the list as Adelaide United's record goal scorer. Bruce spent 4 years on the Executive and Governance Committee of the Professional Footballers Australia. This is the Australian Players Union that represents all Australian professional footballers, including the Socceroos and Matildas. Bruce has spent time working at the accounting firm PKF Adelaide, Fox Sports Australia, and is currently Adelaide United's Director of Football. Please welcome Mr. Bruce from the Adelaide United Club. Thank you.
Good morning everyone, thanks you for having me. It's great to be out here, had a school tour. You got some fantastic facilities. This gym is much better than the gym that I had at my school. So you guys are all very lucky. Education is a very important part of life, if not the most important part. And I'm sure you guys are making the most of it. So today I'll give you a bit of background about myself, and I'll also speak about some of my goals, values, and hopefully you can all take a little bit from that. So my name is Bruce DJITE. I was born in the USA. I was born in Arlington, Virginia. It's right near Washington, DC. My dad was a lecturer at Georgetown University, big university in the US. I've got two brothers. I've got an older brother and a younger brother. We were all born in the States, and then my dad got a job at Sydney Uni. Hence we moved to Australia, and I was only 2.5 years old at the time. Grew up in Sydney, went to school there, soccer clubs were all there. My first soccer club was just a local club, Linfield Football Club. And by the time I was 8 years old, I decided being a professional footballer is what I wanted to do. I just loved the game, I loved playing the game, I loved training, I played it at recess, I played it at lunchtime. It's basically all I did. As I got older, I was one of those kids that I always made the team. I was one of those lucky kids that always made the team, went for trials, made the team, went for trials, I made the team, and it's probably when I was about 14 years old where it started to get pretty serious. I went to the New South Wales Institute of Sport, and juggling training every day. We were training every day back then, and school was a great challenge. I had the idea in my mind that I would concentrate on football. If it didn't work out, then I'd concentrate on school. I was a good student. I wasn't a bad student. I was a good student. I listened, I did my homework and did my work. I wasn't one of those kids that just, you know, buried their mind in sport and didn't worry about anything else. I think education is fundamental to being a good athlete anyway. There's been numerous studies that show that athletes that not just play sport professionally, but also have something outside that sport, tend to perform better on the field in our sport anyway. So it's always good, even if you want to be a professional footballer or a professional swimmer or a professional basketballer, don't discount the importance of education. Because when you sign that big contract, or you know, you get approached by all different people promising you the world, it's important to have the critical thinking skills and the ability to navigate potential problems, and you can only get those sort of skills through school and through a good education. So from the New South Wales Institute of Sport, I then went and trialled for the Australian Institute of Sport. So the Australian Institute of Sport is the best under 18 kids at that time. And you move to Canberra, you live on campus there, and you know, statistics show that X amount of people, overwhelming majority of Socceroos went through the Australian Institute of Sport. So at the time of the trials, it was exceptionally important for me to get in. But it was the first time I didn't make a team. So I went on trial, I thought I did okay. There were a lot of good players there from all around Australia. The challenge was certainly there, but I thought I did okay. I didn't know if I'd make the team or not, but history had shown me that I always made the teams. And then when the coach called me and said, look, you're not in the team, you just don't think you're quite good enough, you're not fast enough, you're not fit enough. It was a real devastating blow, because I was in year 12, so I was doing my HSC, you guys call it the SACE here. In New South Wales they call it HSC at the time, so I was putting a lot of my eggs in this football basket. I'll make the AIS, I get to move to Canberra, I get to just do football, you know, this was the dream. And then not getting into the team really put me at a crossroads. What do I do now? I've really got to concentrate on going to university. Can I do university and keep playing soccer? I really wasn't sure what I could or couldn't do. So I went and played for a club called Marconi. Marconi is a big Italian club in Sydney. I went and played there, and I also went to Macquarie University, also in Sydney. But what I found was it was very hard to excel in one or the other. I was doing okay at uni, I was doing okay on the football field, but I wasn't doing exceptionally well in either. And that was very frustrating. The AIS then changed its structure, so it became an under-20s team, and it was the home for the under-20s young Socceroos. So they redid trials, just in case they missed anyone, just in case someone had improved in the last 18 months. They called a number of people back. They called me back. I trialled well, I thought, and there was a coach there at the time called Ange Postecoglou. So Ange Postecoglou was a Socceroos coach recently. He won the Asian Cup with the Socceroos, and he now coaches in Japan. At the time, he was our under-20s young Socceroos coach, and he invited me to join the AIS program. Massive weight off my shoulders. I didn't have to think in uni anymore, I could just concentrate on soccer, and I moved to Canberra. From there, we had a lot of tours, and one of the greatest things that football's given me is the ability to see the whole world. So from a very young age, I remember when I was 14, we went to Germany, we went to Holland on tours with the AIS team, the Young Socceroos. We went to Argentina, we went to Chile. Amazing countries that a lot of kids at 16, 17, 18 years of age don't get the opportunity to go and see. And one thing I love about the game is it's truly the world game. There's nothing that made me feel more comfortable here in Australia than when I was out on the football field. Either at training with my teammates, at games playing against opposition teams, at the canteen, at the soccer club. I always felt welcomed, and I always felt a real nice sense of multicultural Australia at the soccer clubs, because there's a lot of people who come to this country. I'm assuming a lot of your parents have come to this country and probably didn't know too much about Australia. You don't know how to sing the anthem, you don't know all the norms and values of the country, but one thing you do know is soccer, because everyone plays it. You know how to kick a ball, you know where the goals are, and it's a lot of fun. So one thing about community sport, and especially soccer, is that it does intertwine you in the community and build your networks very, very quickly. There's all sorts of challenges around the world, and I think soccer is a fantastic game that helps to break down barriers, whether it be men, women, gender issues, whether it be political issues between different countries. Soccer is certainly a sport that helps to break down barriers. So I quickly moved from the AIS to Adelaide United, which was my first professional football club. Came here on trial, didn't get in the first time round, but there were a lot of short-term contracts when players got injured, and Adelaide had a few injuries that year, so I kept getting re-invited back. But the good thing about not getting picked for teams is it helps you build resilience. And I think that's very important, especially for you kids at this age, going through from reception to year 12. I think it's important to build that resilience, because nothing good is easy, and there's going to be a lot of challenges along the way. And it's not about giving up or it's too hard or not trying. You should always do your best, and if it doesn't work out, you find a better solution for the next time. I think that's very important, especially in the world we sort of live in today. Resilience is a key attribute and a key asset that I look for when we try to sign players now for Adelaide United Football Club. And everywhere I've worked, it's one of those attributes that all the bosses look for. You can be the smartest person in the world, you can be the smartest person in the room, but if things don't go to plan and you just crumble, then you're not very good to anyone. So make sure you're resilient. There's a lot of things that can come your way that are negative. You've got to be big enough, you've got to be strong enough in the mind to be able to jump those hurdles and tackle those challenges. Because there's a lot of challenges out there, and there's a lot of people who don't want to see you succeed, and there's a lot of people who don't wish well for you sometimes. And there's a lot of people who get jealous when you do things better than they do. But resilience is a great attribute to have. And if you're resilient enough, no one can ever stop you fulfilling your dreams. I think that's a very important message that you guys can take from me today, if you take any. I think it's resilience that really builds a good character and a strong character. And sport can really help you with that. Because you don't win every game. You don't make every pass, you don't score every shot. Some of the best players in the world have missed penalties that have resulted in their whole country missing out on medals, trophies, World Cups and the rest. But they don't just stop playing after that, they pick themselves up, they go to training the next day, and they make sure they don't make that same mistake again. So if anyone here is not doing any community sport, doesn't have to be soccer, could be any sport, I'd encourage you to do so. Because yes, at school you learn a lot about academic things, reading, writing, spelling, mathematics, science, climate change and the rest, but through sport there's a lot of individual characteristics that you can learn as well. Resilience is one of them, working as a team, being together, helping your teammate, All those things are very important, especially in the workplace. It's important at school, it's important in work, it's important for life. There's a lot of life lessons that can come out of sport, and I've been lucky enough to learn a lot of those lessons through soccer. So I played for Adelaide United for a few years and then got transferred to Turkey. I played for Gençlerbirliği in Ankara. It was a fantastic experience, a country that is super crazy about soccer. Stadiums always full, fans lining the streets. For me it was a dream come true. I'd always wanted to play in Europe, I'd always wanted to play in European competitions, and the ability to play in the Turkish Super League for me was really a dream come true when there were players like Roberto Carlos playing at the time in that same competition. Harry Kewell was playing at the time there also. It was really a fantastic time. I also played for the Socceroos, so our national team. During that period, I went to a number of camps, played in World Cup qualifiers, Asian Cup qualifiers, and really got to see, and sit at the table with people who were playing in the Premier League, in the Serie A, and that was really a highlight of my career. So it just shows from a kid that couldn't make an AIS team, that grew up in the suburbs of Sydney, to then be sitting at the table with these superstar footballers was really quite a surreal moment for me. But I quickly found out that, you know what, a lot of these superstars to us, they're the same kids from the suburbs like you and I. They went to school, they trained hard, and they had a dream to be the best footballer that they could possibly be. And they fulfilled that dream, but they stayed humble. And it's not just about sport that I want to speak to you about today, because for me, I just want to be a soccer player. I just want to be a professional footballer. A lot of people want to have dreams and hopes in professional sport, but I'm still connected to the sport. I'm now the director of football at Adelaide United, and I'm heavily involved in the club and the players and the coaches and everything that happens in the football club. So if you can't kick a ball and you're no good at sport, but you still want to be involved, there's a lot of other avenues that you can use to be involved in the game. You can be a doctor, you can be a physio, you can be a sports administrator, you can work in the office, you can work in marketing, you can work in commercial team, you can work in the community team like Ruben, who's no good at soccer, by the way. But there's a lot of different elements you can work in a business. The sports business is huge, and there's a lot of opportunities. So it's not just about the guys on the field. There's a lot of people off the field as well that make a significant contribution and a difference to how a team performs on the field. After playing for the national team and playing in Turkey, I came back and played in the Gold Coast. I then went from the Gold Coast to China. I never thought I'd live in China. I'd visited before for games, World Cup qualifiers, but never thought I'd live there. Fantastic experience. I lived in a city called Nanjing, which was the former capital of China before I got moved to Beijing. After China, I then came back to Adelaide. I played here from 2011 to 2016, when we won the Premiership and Championship double. Subsequent to that, I moved to South Korea, another country I never thought that I'd live in, but a fantastic experience. I lived in a city called Suwon. So Suwon is the home of Samsung. The family that created Samsung is from Suwon, and Samsung's head office and headquarters is in Suwon. It's about 25 kilometers south of Seoul, which is the capital of Korea. And subsequent to that, I moved to Indonesia. Very interesting country, huge country, and we live in a very multicultural country here, but I must say Indonesia is another level. You can go from the west of Indonesia, where there's a lot of Christians and no one wears headscarves, to the central, slightly eastern side of Indonesia, which is very conservative. very Muslim percentage of, a very high percentage of Muslim people. And then you can go to the east of Indonesia, which is people who have sort of been shifted over from Papua New Guinea throughout history. So you've got a very different mix of people throughout that country. And I was lucky enough to travel every fortnight to a different city, a different island, to play against different teams and experience all the different foods and the different values, norms and attitudes of all those different people. It was really eye-opening. Subsequent to that, I retired from playing in 2019. I went and worked at Fox Sports in Sydney for 6 months prior to getting my role today. And I think my role today is one of the greatest I've had in all my life through playing with the rest, in that I get to help young people, especially young people, boys and girls. We've also got a women's team, so there's boys and girls, and to help them fulfill their dreams, because I used to be like them once upon a time, just wanting to get that next contract, just wanting to do well, and I can help a lot of people do that. So this leadership position is one I'm privileged in. It gives me the opportunity to come and speak to cool kids like yourselves and tell you a little bit about my story and a little bit about the values that I think can help you be a successful person. Doesn't matter what you do, as long as you do it well and as long as you do it with pride, then there's no doubt that you will have successful lives. And if you're resilient, then nothing will be able to stop you. So that's what I have to say to you all today. I don't know if you guys have any questions, the teachers, the students, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about soccer, life, school, challenges. When I normally say this, everyone gets shy. So.
Any questions?
So one from me, just a question. So you have obviously played in a lot of countries with a lot of different teammates. Who is your strongest teammate and your strongest opponent as well? Yeah, best.
There's one question.
Yeah, I'll come to you next. It's hard to say. I've had some very good teammates in terms of ability. Harry Kuehl was exceptional when he was fit. He had a lot of fitness issues, so he got injured a lot. But at his best, he was probably the best. And defence-wise, I was a striker, so coming up against some of the best defenders. Well, in Australia, Patrick Van Zwyk was really good. You guys probably don't know him. You're probably maybe a bit too young. He played for the Central Coast Mariners once upon a time. And Matthew Delpierre, who was a fantastic centre-back, played for Melbourne Victory as well. So they're probably the two best defenders I came up against in Australia.
What age did you retire?
I retired when I was 32 years old. So I retired pretty early, but I only retired because I had other interests. Like I was interested in other things, and I didn't want to continue training to play in the big games. So I lost that fire, really. And if you want to be a professional athlete, you really need to have that fire burning all the time, because it's a very competitive sport, it's a very competitive industry, and if you don't have it within yourself to really be the best, then for me, you're better off not doing it. But I was lucky because I studied. I went to university and studied while I played, so I had other options. Unfortunately, a lot of sports people, by the time they have to retire because no one wants to sign them, or they have a really bad injury or something, that's when they start thinking about what they're going to do next. But I started thinking about what I wanted to do next very early in my career, so I was well prepared for life after football, which made the decision a lot easier for me than most other people.
Who's your favorite player right now in like the under-19 team?
Oh, I've never a favourite player in our team. I've never a favourite player in our team. But growing up, my favourite players were Didier Drogba and Nicolas Anelka and Mark Viduka. So probably the three players I looked at and I tried to play like them. I wanted to be like them when I was a kid. So they would be my three favourite footballers. But I don't have a favourite in our team. That wouldn't be fair.
Obviously you travel with your like teammates and stuff. Did you face any like challenges or like troubles with each other when you were traveling? Or was it like, you know?
Like the atmosphere and culture and stuff.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time, you spend a lot of time with your teammates. You know, you probably spend more time with your teammates than you do with your family. I was lucky, I think. Not always, but most of my teams were actually really good teamwork, really good feeling, really good culture. There were some teams that didn't work so well. There'd be different groups, you know, the foreigners would all hang out together, you know, the young boys would all hang out together, the senior players would all hang out together, and there wasn't a good mix, but those teams were never quite successful. I think it's important that as a team, you've got to work as a cohesive unit if you want to be successful, because if you don't, you're playing against other teams who probably are working as a cohesive unit. So to be the best and to win, you need to be the best in the maximum amount of fields. And teamwork and respecting and liking your teammates and being willing to do the hard stuff for your teammates is one of those fields. Without that, you're gonna have a tough season. It's definitely hard work. I wasn't the most talented player. I wasn't bad, but I wasn't really skillful or technically really gifted. And then the problem in Australia is, because soccer's such a global game, the problem in Australia is that like you just got someone's dad coaching you till you're like 14. Whereas overseas, you've got a proper coach coaching you from when you're 7 or 8. So it's really hard to arrive at that top level when, you know, it'd be the same like school. If you only started school when you were 16 and you're doing a maths quiz against someone who started school when they were 6, then your chances of doing better than them is very slim, you know what I mean? So it's definitely hard work. I think Australians are renowned, especially in all sport, but especially in soccer, for their hard work, determination, and all that. And I think that's what we sort of need to arrive at that top level, because we don't have the resources and ability to get the good coaching and everything else. So for me, it was always about hard work, and that's good because it carried on from football into my study and into my work today. So a lot of people say, oh, you work so hard, or you're so busy. Well, I just think it's normal. I thought it was weird that there was public holiday yesterday and I didn't have to go to work. Well, the players were training, you know what I mean? So definitely hard work will get you further than talent. Yeah? Yeah. So I can speak French, so I'm fluent in French. So French is my first language. I learned English when obviously came here as a 2.5-year-old kid. And then in Turkey, my Turkish got really good. I was there for about 2 years. So I could speak Turkish really well when I left, and now it's not as good. That's okay. I forget a lot of words. I'm struggling to have a conversation in Turkish now. Korean was hard. I didn't learn too much Korean. And it's also a language that's not used very broadly. So I didn't feel a sense of urgency to learn Korean. So I'm like, well, when I'm not here, who am I going to speak to? Chinese, was okay. I can still count stuff in Chinese, right, left, basic stuff. But that's a really hard language. Chinese has like, I don't know how many 100 characters. Korean's only got 30 something. So much easier to learn Korean or read Korean than Chinese, for example. Indonesian I didn't really learn. I was only there for 1 year. It's a very easy language, Indonesian. It's real basic. You basically just sound out the words. No accents, hardly any silent letters. So that was a pretty easy language to get my head around. But once you know 2 languages, picking up a 3rd and 4th is a lot easier than if you can only speak English. Picking up a 2nd language is a lot trickier. Ooh. Well, the best goalkeeper that I would have scored against would be Mark Schwarzer. He was Socceroos keeper. I never played against him like an official game, but at training, if your shot wasn't actually really good, he'd save it. That was a real eye-opener for me, because a lot of times, you know, you might not have the most accurate shot, but you hit it hard enough, keeper doesn't react in time, or if you hit a shot really hard but it's not quite in the corner, it'd still go in. Mark Schwarzer would save all of those, unless it was really top corner or bottom corner. In the side netting, you know, he's probably saving it. So he was probably the best goalkeeper like I practiced with or trained with. And not far behind him would be Eugene Galekovic. So he was Adelaide United goalkeeper for a number of years, our captain as well. One of the best goalkeepers I ever played with. At the back.
What team do you support in the Premier League?
What did I want?
What team do you support in the Premier League?
Arsenal. We're having a tough time. We were really good though. I was supporting them when we had the Invincibles. Whole season, didn't lose a game.
Where's your dad from?
Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. My mom's from Togo. So West Africa for those that haven't looked at a map.
What's the best team or national team you've played against?
The best team I played against, there's 2. Very easy to remember because they were so bloody good. So we played against Holland, the Netherlands, in Holland, in Eindhoven. And they had Van Persie, Robben, Van der Vaart, Huntelaar, Afellay. They had an unbelievable team. And we actually won that game. I played the last 30 minutes, I came off the bench. Harry Kuehl scored and Josh Kennedy scored. We won 2-1 in Holland. It was really big for us because we had a Dutch coach at the time, Pim Verbeek. So to beat his national team was a big thing. And the other team was the Mexican Olympic team. So with the Australian Olympic team, we went to Los Angeles to play a few games. We played against the Mexican Olympic team, and they were unbelievable. They're one of the best teams I'd ever played against. The way they moved the ball, the way they moved, their skills, their speed, really good team, and had a lot of good players that ended up at Arsenal and Barcelona and you know, some of the biggest clubs in the world. So, Mexican Olympic team and Holland. 2 more questions.
What was your best time in your football career?
What's my what?
Best time in your football career?
The best time? The best time in my football career would have been, I reckon, when it first sort of started. So when I was about 21, I played a few years. I was like this up-and-coming kid. I was playing here at Adelaide United, doing really well, and was in the Olympic team, and was starting to get into Socceroos camps as well. So someone who was 21, living away from home, you know, my family was in Sydney, I was living in Adelaide, I was flying everywhere, I was on a plane every other day. We'd play A-League games in Brisbane, then have to fly to China to play an Olympic Games qualifier, then maybe there was a Socceroos camp in London, then come back and play an A-League game, maybe train for a week with Adelaide United, then I'd be flying to Japan, and then I was just flying around everywhere, and it was all sort of new to me. Got to sit in business class. That was really exciting for me because I always remember walking past all the people in business class as a kid, thinking like, oh, it'd be so cool to have a bed on the plane. So yeah, that was the most exciting sort of time of my career. Last one.
Do you like Messi or Ronaldo?
Look, I think it's impossible. For me, I prefer watching Ronaldo play.
Love it.
If you ask me who's better, Messi or Ronaldo, it's very hard to say. I think Messi's a better footballer, skills, dribbling, all this sort of stuff. Ronaldo's probably a harder worker and a more complete footballer. Because he's just Man United, best. Real Madrid, best. Sporting Lisbon, before Man U, he was the best. Now he's at Juventus, they'll probably win it as well again. Messi's only been at Barcelona. It's very easy to be in the comfort zone. He will leave at some stage, and we'll see how he goes. But I think Ronaldo, in total, has been more successful. He's been successful in Portugal, he's been successful in different continents with different clubs. Messi's only really been successful with Barcelona, who had the best team of any team I've seen for a number of years, with the best coach, in my opinion, in Guardiola. So, it's a tough one.
Everyone learned something from Bruce. Thank you for your insightful comments. We really enjoy every TED Talk that happens in the past last year. Now I would like to call Mr. Han and Mr. Aslan to present the gifts to Ruben and Bruce. Come up to the stage, please.
Ben hiç çıkıyorum diye de fark etmiyorsun.
So thank you once again to Bruce, Ruben and also Mr. Aslan for organising the Pinnacle Talks. We'll have another one early next term as well, so I'm looking forward to that too. More details on that sooner to the date. It's 10:20, so home group time is now in effect. So if you can please head back to your home groups. The Year 11s have English, I believe. So go to English classes, Year 11s. Thank you.